luckily we still have Mike Cusick and Nicole Maliotakis. They're, I know you know, great advocates for us. Now, in the Senate, the New York State Senate is now in Democratic hands, and the new majority leader will almost certainly be Andrews Cousins, and we've got a whole bunch of new senators in the New York State Senate. All the IDC members were.
We should probably have a boom eventually.
Which is really, really good for us. And so we've got, I think there are 15 new members in the New York State Senate that we're going to have to get to know and educate them on our issues and what's important to us. We had lots of friends on the Republican side. We also have lots of friends on the Democrat side. So I think we're going to be fine. But also, anytime there's a change like that, we have new chairs in every one of the committees. Everybody is kind of finding their way. There were all kinds of initiatives that the Dems in the Senate wanted to put forward that passed the Assembly but got stuck in the Senate. Those are going to become really, really important first. So we're going to really have to struggle for airtime. It's not going to be, it might be a little bit more difficult for us. It doesn't mean that we can't still get exactly what we need, but we'll have to talk a lot more. I don't think any of us have a problem with that, so that's a good thing. I wanted to just add that your two senators were IDC and majority Republican conference. Now they're not. So I don't know what life will be like for Diana Savino in the Senate, but it's not going to be the same as it was. And certainly Andy Lanza has a different kind of role. So, you know, Staten Island, you guys lost a little bit of clout in the New York State Legislature, but it doesn't matter because we're still going to get in there and make sure that we work with everybody very well. So without any of this, before we get into the presentation, I think I'll wait.
Okay, so we're flipping the agenda a bit. Normally we do the housekeeping and committee reports and then do the presentation, but we don't want to hold Wini hostage and make her stay until 11:30, so we're going to lose. And thank you all for your patience because of the storm yesterday, New York Lawyers for the Public Interest rep can't make it. So we will, that's an important, the guardianship issue is really important. And now that I think about it, we do it like in January or February. We might be able to get Matt to come. And like we used to get Judge Giganti. Does anybody remember bringing Judge Giganti almost every year? So we could, actually ask them to come, but also bring Matt to come.
Wait for somebody.
Who is a really...
I'm not going to try to do it myself, especially...
I know we lost him in the assembly, but we gained him in the surrogate court because he understands developmental disabilities better than anybody who could have that position. And so for our interests, he's a perfect person to have in as the surrogate court judge because people with developmental disabilities, intellectual developmental disabilities will come and stand in front of him and he's going to know the issues intimately and be sensitive to them. So I think that was a win for us. But we're really happy with that. We're not going to do this entire presentation, but it's going to remind Wini to cover all of the topics that we want to cover today. Advocacy is really, really, really very important. And later in the talk, it will discuss how parents are so important, but I've been in special ed for a few decades now. I started when I was 5. And absolutely, the books, it's documented. No change has ever happened that has been significant that wasn't started by and backed by parents in special ed. It's Public Law 1991-42. The ones that started all of them were a bunch of parents getting together. And you know as well as I do that in agencies, who started these agencies? People, a very special place for people who worked in Willowbrook. and saw what happened and said, no, we need a very special place because they never had one. They were parents. Our agency was founded by, Eden too, was founded by parents who took, mortgaged their houses and sold their engagement rings so that they could find a place for their 6 kids with autism to go because the schools had kicked them out. So this talk and putting a fire under parents so that they understand how to best, you start advocating for your child, advocating for your family and advocating for your child, and trying to get services and trying to get the right services and trying to get the paperwork to match the kid in front of them, because how hard is that? How hard is it to get an ISP to match your kid? And how hard is it to get an IEP to match your kid? And then now how hard is it to get through the IM and get a life plan to match your kid, right? So these are all challenges that you have, and being in the know empowers you. And when parents learn how to advocate, and people in the field, because we're in the field, right? But when we learn how to advocate for one person, and when we get really good at that, we can then move out to advocate for the whole field in general, right? So I'm so glad Wini's here, because I sat in a meeting with her yesterday and I took copious notes about all of the really, really, really important advocacy issues, and then cleaned out my bag and they're on my desk, because I had no idea that I was going to be doing this. So we're going to go quickly through this talk just to frame the topics that are current and alive and give you all the brand new information that is happening and where to find it and how you can help us. And I hear from parents, I want to be involved, I don't know how to be involved, I want to be involved. Well, this is kind of like here's the people if you want to be involved. Barbara, Donna Long's not here, but Barbara Devaney is the co-chair of the advocacy committee. We're all advocates. Contact any one of us and we will hook you up with somebody who will get your name on the list and get you to in front of the governor's office when we're asking for more money for our kids, right? I probably just did the whole talk. Okay, so this was, come and learn how to effectively advocate. Services are changing. How to obtain services. The front door was a really big turnover in how you get services. And very often the cart comes before the horse. The idea is really great, but all the little nitpicky parts of getting it done, by the way, frustrates the people who are helping families as much as, raise your hand, who's a care manager in the house? All right. How frustrating is it to, not be able to answer the questions because the people in power haven't given you. So we work very closely with the powers that be, and we learn the new systems, but they're changing. I have to tell you, the action plan, the staff action plan right now is the bane of my existence. They're going from HAP plans, COM-HAP plans, RES-HAP plans to staff action plans. Nobody really understands it. The dates don't make sense. It's kind of like, where's your ear? You're doing it from this way, and it has probably been the most effort ever. That was our second meeting yesterday, of a 2-hour meeting talking about how we stay in compliance and not lose our shirts and audit.
Really knowing the answer.
And not knowing the answer. Come learn about changes and ways you can effectively advocate. The future of services is the future of your child. And so, please, everybody in here, walk out and go find a parent who doesn't know about us and bring them in here. And we're really looking for young parents. Because in the olden days, and some of you remember the real olden days, in the olden days, not pointing out how old people are, but you had to fight for services. Like, I left the country like 15 years ago to work overseas. We didn't have MSC, we didn't have COM-HAP, we didn't have in-home respite, we didn't have all of those services. And those came about by efforts of families, and they fought for them. Right now, we're at a place where these services, we have a lot of services, right? So the families who are coming in don't really know the strife that the older families went through. And so that strife was real, and it's coming back in that services are changing, and we're not quite sure if they're changing for the better or not. All that glitters is not gold, so just be careful about jumping on a bandwagon that's not tried and true. So, that kind of mentality, needs to guide how you proceed. Okay. Here's the definition of advocacy, how boring, but anyway. It's to add a voice, is to assist securing the rights of oneself or others, okay? The purpose is to promote or reinforce a change in policy, which we do. We do through our connections with the New York Alliance, the IAC. There are a number of provider organizations, provider membership organizations. And so, advocacy is about getting numbers together to communicate a message that is consistent. And so, it always, and this is my personal little drop in the bucket, but when I hear them going, I talked to this one and I told him that, and then I talked to this one and I told him that, or I talked to an administrator, I talked to this one, I told him that, and those are 3 different messages, I get a real pit in my stomach because I think that really chips away at the greater message. But if we all have the same rhetoric, if we all know what the top 3 or 4 issues are, and we're all speaking the same language, it's much more effective. Because as we were saying, we have a new parent here, Patrick. As we were saying that you hear it once and you don't understand it, you hear it twice, you still don't understand it, you hear it 15 times and you just learn the questions to ask. By the time you hear it 20 times, you really feel comfortable with the rhetoric, right? So, coming together and talking about these things and learning and listening helps get a message that is consistent and more effective, yeah? These are the types of advocacy, and right now we're just focusing on group advocacy and helping and supporting families in self-advocacy, which I consider not just self, but self for your person that you're advocating for, whether it be the kid on your care management roster or the kid you gave birth to, or help with the cold giving birth to. This is what I was talking about before, clarity of effective advocacy is clarity of purpose, right? Confidential, person-centered approach, empowerment, these are really all like goals to getting the message across. So, here's a really good example of how we, kind of won the fight for more money for our direct support professionals who everyone would agree are probably the most important people in our lives most of the time, because they're the ones who help us and support us. So, do you want to explain what COPA is and how we got that message across?
So first of all, there were a couple of associations operating together in Albany, and for years we worked together before I took this job. And that was CP associations, actually the ARC New York, IAC, and a few other peripheral ones, the Alliance of Long Island Agencies. And we would, the lobbyists who represented those associations would go on appointments together. We had pretty much the same goals, and we worked together on issues. But as time went by, we decided that rather than to have even minor differences in the things that we were asking for, we would form an umbrella called the Coalition of Provider Associations, or COPA. And that is actually not the ARC of New York, but it's 5 other organizations, including IAC, CP of New York State, DAWNY in Western New York, the Alliance of Long Island Agencies, and NIAM in New York City and other places. And we agree 100% on all of our advocacy. So everything in print is something that everybody's agreed on. There are, of course, little things that the associations work on separately. But like Irene was saying, when there is a consistent message heard from a lot of different points, it's much, much, much stronger and louder. For the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign, we got together with even more associations. We actually joined with every single association in New York State, and there's, I think, 10 of them, including self-advocates, DSPs, and SWAN, which is the statewide advocacy network, and that's the statewide parent group that New York City Fair is actually a member of. SWAN is like COPA, a group of organizations. So we all got together, and it is really difficult to come up with a consistent message. You know, we talk endlessly to agree on something. But the fruit of that labor was that, as a lobbyist in Albany, we were congratulated by every lobbyist that I know up there. Like, you guys ran an amazing campaign. Everybody knows Be Fair to Direct Care. I mean, it's like the word on every legislator's lips. It was just impossible to escape because we built like a brand. We had a logo, and we did hashtag everything, and we used social media. Oh, a billboard in Times Square, which I hope we can get again. You know, so we built this thing, and we had every association behind it, and we tried to include behavioral health, but they had a little bit of a different message. And, you know, just because of the nature of their services and how it's funded, and that they're heavy on the clinical end of things, we're more heavy on the direct support professional end of things. So we couldn't work together because they couldn't share our message from top to bottom, and that's what it takes. So when we were talking about, when Irene was saying, and I give this message to that one, and this message to that one, and this message to that one, or if it's 3 parents with 3 slightly different messages, legislators get confused. I mean, they just, even if they're not confused, they won't remember. It has to be something like Be Fair to Direct Care, which at first we said, no, we can't say that because it's not direct care. They're direct support professionals. You've got to use the right language. And then we realized it's more important for it to be memorable. You know, like those stupid jingles that you can't get out of your head on some commercial. It's that. So we got it. Now, we got it the first year. We got 2 installments 2 years ago. We tried real hard to be the same star as last year, and we didn't make it for various reasons. But we feel like this year we're going to be able to hopefully get the second 2 installments.
So for those of us who don't know, it's about a living wage for direct support professionals. They're not minimum wage workers, right? They're not, you know, a lot of times that you hear, I could go work at Burger King or McDonald's for the same amount of money, and they're much better trained. So there's like this compression factor. There's this, like, they're already not minimum wage workers, so direct support professionals shouldn't be chasing the minimum wage. The money we asked for was to help us level the playing ground, if you will, and recognize their important contribution and their level of responsibility and their level of training. Because we're leaving, we're leaving people who we love and care about and can't communicate or are not, are a bit more involved than just like the teenage babysitter down the block who you get. That's not a possibility for us. Until they got that message.
In fact, I won't belabor this point because it's a little bit boring, but we began trying to get a living wage when minimum wage was proposed to rise. So we realized, we took a look at, wow, $15 an hour, well, that's great, but our workers don't get $15 an hour. So all of a sudden, every DSP is going to be at $15, which is minimum wage. And these are way more responsible positions than a minimum wage job. So we tried to talk about the idea of compression, which is just as the lowest wage rises, our wage gets closer to it, and that cushion is gone, that's the compression. And that was like, don't use that word. Because Governor Cuomo was so proud of his raising the minimum wage. And compression is something that's felt across the board. I mean, it's in every sector, every industry, everything. So think of all of the government funding that goes out to people and how much that would cost him if he actually did address compression. So we were told, do not use that word. So we changed it completely, and we flipped it around to a living wage, and we still got what we needed. But so that is the way the message will change, and that is also why you need to stay connected to the source or to the ones who are developing the campaign so that we can keep current, because we definitely have to change as things change out there in the world.
So that's still a top. that's still something that's on the docket, because when the governor comes out with his budget, there's just so much money, so we have to, everybody's fighting for the same pot of money. So it's about stating the case strong enough that you win the fight for a portion of the money. It's never gonna be everything that you ask for, but that you win. It's like mommy having $1 and, 2 children and, I want this and I want that, and the one that fights more is the one that, or gets, because I didn't get my allowance for 3 months in a row. Okay, you won, you get the whole dollar, because the kid stated his case. I'm gonna move on a little. Yes. Okay. So 130,000 New Yorkers with developmental disabilities who often cannot speak for themselves. There was a call to action, and so that was explained to you. And so still we're asking for everybody to get involved. It's going to come up. It's going to be one of the lobby topics this year. Remember, this was from another talk. So the advocacy committee meets monthly and coordinates the annual community breakfast. They work with stakeholders, families, provider associations, and inform our elected officials. So how can you help? You can join by putting your name on the list in the back for the advocacy committee, going with us to rallies. They're coming up now. Like the rallies are starting, the movements, yesterday you were like, it's starting, we don't date yet, stay tuned.
There's a couple going on in Western New York right now. We're going to have one in Long Island very shortly. There'll be one in New York City, but I'm not sure exactly where. It's not going to be out here though. Still, you're welcome to attend. It might be Brooklyn or it might be Manhattan, I'm not sure. And we're going to be doing one in Albany, which will be our big kickoff in January.
So we have had buses go into Manhattan. Remember a couple of years ago for the Be Fair for Direct Care, we were all, I took my own car, but we all went and picketed outside of the mayor's office. Two Mondays in a row, or 2 Wednesdays in a row. I remember it was 2 times that we went out there. And we got a lot of coverage. You're still on the, holding the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, holding the mic. And so that's where we need, that's the grassroots, boots on the ground effort that even 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when we had to put a bus together to go up to Albany or put a bus together to go into the city, we would say to every agency, okay, $100 each agency, that's for the bus, and then get a bunch of parents. And we could very easily fill a bus in no time. And now that doesn't happen anymore. So we have to make that happen again. It's our plea for participants. It's a plea. I'm begging everybody. We're all begging people to get new parents. I've said it, I'm saying it out loud. We all talk about it at committee meetings, but we need new people, we need new blood, we need people to get on the bus with us, and we need numbers, and we need parents and new parents. So we have letter writing, respond to campaigns, and be educated. And we had index cards. Remember, we had cards. We had little cards that we gave out to everybody, and everybody could sign and just mail it. So we try to make it as easy as possible, where you just have to kind of save the letter, sign it, and then send it up, all by email.
And we'll have letters on our website when we get going with letter writing.
Okay, so we'll make sure that everybody has the website. We'll send it out after this, send out a little blurb. So I talked about this is parents have power, your voice and concerns have impact. There are strength in numbers, and the more people involved, the stronger and more impactful the message, right? So these are the current advocacy topics. We've covered Be Fair to Direct Care. Transition to managed care. These are the ones I put on, they're not the ones we talked about yesterday, but transition to managed care has to be looked at very carefully. And I think the CAS assessment, does anybody not know what the CAS assessment is? Okay, so the CAS assessment, they've started in group homes, but essentially in the move to managed care, you don't have an MSC anymore, you have a care manager. There's a CCO, a care coordination organization, who has the care manager. It's called a health home, which is not really a house. It's really like kind of this ethereal, being, I don't even know how to explain it. And this is like step one, if you will. It's probably like step three, but it's a step to managed care. And so during the phase of putting the care coordination organizations together, there was a lot of advocacy for making sure that they understood the needs of the developmentally disabled, right, and the intellectually disabled, because managed care and medical model is like, okay, six times you get physical therapy and you're done. But our peeps, if you have, say, cerebral palsy and you're in a wheelchair, this is not 6 times that you get physical therapy. It continues on. One of the components of the managed care model and moving to a managed care model is the CAS assessment. And the assessment is really looking at the person, looking at abilities, strengths and needs. I don't like to say weaknesses, because then I have to talk about my math problem. Strengths and needs, and then, what are the goals for your life? What are the kinds of things that you want? Right now, OPWDD, as of the Be Fair to Direct Care, 2 weeks ago, nighttime conference, and we say, oh yeah, we're not using this to decide how much money you're going to get. Each kid will get. They're not using it right now, but that's the point of it. That's what it will be used for. It's going to be a capitated rate. You're going to get this assessment, and this is so there are huge flaws with the assessment. And IAC, and I'm sure a lot of other agencies, but we're involved in IAC. IAC is working with OPWDD by doing studies to show the imperfections or the inaccuracies of the CAS assessment.
And the extent of the imperfection.
And the extent of the imperfections. So kind of like, is he mobile? Yes, but he's in a wheelchair. Yeah, well, he's mobile in the wheelchair. Like, that's not acceptable. That's not the definition of mobile, right? The definition of mobile is you can like walk around and get around. It's not being in. So you shouldn't be able to interpret it like that. It shouldn't come out like that. It should come out that, he can get around in a wheelchair, qualify it, but give it some type of a qualification, because then that need is not going to be represented properly financially when it comes down to setting the amount of money. So this is the transition to one of the transition to managed care issues that we're working on kind of behind the scenes. This is not going to be like a lobby topic.
No, and the reason is that there's some things that are legislative, and there's some things that have to do with our state agency. So the whole transition to managed care, the CCOs and the CAS and the IM and all that stuff, that's all OPWDD. It's still advocacy, but it's not kind of the stuff that we go to Albany and tell our legislators, you've got to fight for us. Actually, certain ones maybe should, but it's not, the all-out effort. It's more the meetings with Carrie Delaney and telling her, this is crazy, you're going to destroy us. She's got to hear from you that same way, but it's just a different point of focus.
And getting parents into those question and answer open forums. OPWDD does hold open forums every time there's any change or a movement or an issue. And you can't be in it if you don't know about it, right? And so the advocacy committee and all of our efforts this year are really going to focus on empowering parents and other advocates with the education and knowledge they need to be there and ask the right questions.
And they really can't ignore you if you speak up in force. And if you do that, organizations like IAC will say, the families, you heard, like, we'll back you up. So that provides strength, I think, to the message, and they have to do something. So they're struggling also, but we have to make sure they struggle with the right results.
So last month or the month before, Chris Trieber from IAC came and gave a nice little talk about the problems with, 3 and 4 are connected. The shortage of placements for preschool, but also the funding issues for 4410 preschools and 853 schools. So, if you have a child who has special needs, they can be in a regular school, in a regular classroom, an inclusion, ICT setting, you know, or one at the public school, or they can be in, you know, a special ed school, or they can be in a private 853, 4410 schools are private schools like we have at Eden. We have a 4410 preschool. Is ours the only one in Staten?
No.
Huh?
No, we haven't.
Do we have a lot? So 853?
You're the only.
Okay, we're the only 853. All right, I flipped that. So we're the only 853 school. So what it is the government, you know, so say Mary Jo is in a public school, in a special ed classroom, but her needs are not being met there. So documentation is gathered and the parents petition for the child to go to like a specialized school like Eden because the kid has autism, because they want ABA, because they know it's going to work. They you know, they're pushing for that. They really think that that's going to work. So then one would think that the money for Mary Jo to go to the public school would be the same money that they would give the 853 school, and that's not what happens. Okay, there's a different rate, and besides just a different rate, there's all kinds of extra monies that go to the public schools that don't ever get to the 853 and 4410 preschools, right? So just think if you had twins, you would be like, what do you mean? You know, Mary and Mary Jo are twins, and Mary's getting this kind of an education, and Mary Jo has to go to this school, and she should get the same that her sister's getting, right? It results in not being able to provide qualified teachers. There's not enough money for qualified teachers. Teachers come, they get training, they leave. The turnover is incredibly high. So it means that if the turnover is incredibly high, the level, the quality, through no fault, and I'm not being, you know, I'm not being defensive, but through no fault of our own in the school is the quality going down, but it's because we become a training ground for teachers, and then they leave to go to the public schools. Not only do they leave to go to the public schools, they leave on a moment's notice, and even if they wanted to come back and work for us a few years later, they're not allowed until a certain amount of time has passed, 2 years. So, what?
Like a non-compete?
Yes, it's almost like a non-compete.
Even if they applied for a job and didn't take it, they're in that non-compete status.
So it puts these 853 and 4410 schools at a distinct disadvantage, to the extent that a lot of preschools have closed, and we're now left with schools that we have kids that need placement and they don't have a place to go, but also that the teachers are not really qualified. You know, they can be becoming qualified. They're not bad people. They're just, you know, they're not qualified teachers because we're hiring who we can get. You hire from who, you know, from what's in front of you and what you can get. But then what happens is you need to expand you know, and you can get permission to expand the preschool classroom, right? But you're not allowed to expand the preschool classroom if you don't have a qualified teacher. It's like this, it's not just a it's like a catch-22 on steroids. It's like everywhere you turn, you're caught at an impasse and some place that you can't. So the movement is called.
It's called hashtag.
Hashtag.
So that we can do social media. Our kids are your kids. So our emphasis on that, these are public school kids that are placed in our schools because they can be better served with us. But as Irene was saying, the tuition disparity has grown to the degree that our teachers are making $20,000 or $30,000 less per year, working 12 months instead of 10 with inferior benefits. So yes, they are recruited by the school districts who say, we have a job for you, you know, it's maybe an $8,000 signing bonus, a $25,000 raise, only 10 months of work, but you gotta start on Monday. Otherwise, they'll go to the next person on the list. So they leave us. And they can't come back, but they would want to, because, I mean, teachers leave in tears because they love working with our kids, and yet they can't. I mean, what would you do if you were offered a job for $30,000 more with summers off and better benefits? There's no way, 20 or 30. So this is clear discrimination. What we're left with is an increasing vacancy and turnover rate. So our turnover rate's huge, but we can't get resumes anymore because, first of all, there's a shortage of special ed teachers across the state. So there's just a generalized shortage. So if, everybody's clamoring for special ed teachers, why would they take a job with us when they can get a job that is so much more lucrative? So it really puts our kids in a position where they're being discriminated against. And like Irene was saying, our classrooms, we're scrambling to cover them. So teachers' assistants are the ones who are covering classrooms.
Or clinical staff. And so the clinicians, the clinicians are in the classrooms running the classes, and then their jobs are not getting done.
Right.
We see this all the time. People running around with kids without heads because they're trying to hold down the fort. And your school environment shouldn't be holding down the fort. It should be an enriched school environment. You don't, just because you're in special ed, you don't get better, but you get equal to or equivalent to what the kids in general ed are getting.
We think we should get better, but
Well, the law
we can
states,
ask
right, yeah, but we want at least what their peers are getting or their siblings are getting. So, be fair to direct care. What's the new hashtag?
Our kids are your kids.
So you're going to be seeing that, and now you're going to know what that means. Our kids are your kids. So if you have friends who have kids in preschool, if you have friends who have kids in the 815 preschools, they need to come to these meetings. They need to know what's going on because they need to be able to advocate for their children. Because, because you're in the school you want to be in, you're in a good school, but you've changed teachers 4 or 5 or 6 times over the course of the school year. That's not good for anybody, right? Would anybody be okay with their child being educated by 6 different teachers in the school year? 4, 5, 6 different teachers? No. So this is the new hashtag you're going to be looking for. This is a big, huge effort this year. And teacher retention is part of that, so it's all separate out. I think the last thing that we might talk about.
But before we move on from the teacher thing, so it's really hard to get families involved because when you have little kids, life is a little more hectic. And also, we really want to get kids and teachers and families up to Albany, but we can't really go up on a school day, and the whole thing is a little bit more difficult. So we're heavy on the social media. There is going to be a campaign coming out right after Thanksgiving. And you'll all know about it, and we're going to tag all our elected officials, including the new ones who need to learn about what's going on with us. And clearly, it's discrimination. So what we did was we sent a letter to SED and also the commissioner, and we shared it with the governor's office and a few other people in Albany, saying that our classes are now being led by uncertified teachers, and now they're freaking out. Now they're noticing because they realize that this is an issue. And they also are really realizing that it's discrimination with a big D and that they could be sued. So we're looking at every option that's available to us to solve this problem because we've been sounding the alarm for the last, I'm going to say 6, 7 years? Easily. Yeah, longer. But now it's like we cannot take this anymore. So stay tuned for a lot of activity on our kids.
And maybe you could explain there on notice, what happens when somebody comes in and maybe closes the door because there's uncertified teachers in the class? What's the real problem with uncertified teachers?
Okay, so currently there are kids sitting at home, but we don't know how many. And we're talking about preschools now specifically. So New York City doesn't keep those numbers, and Chris Trieber, my colleague, is trying to force them to cough it up, but it's really, really hard to get that data. So there are kids actually sitting at home right now not getting services. So that's horrible. Then there's everybody who's graduating from early intervention who's going to need seats. And then we have these classrooms that are being covered by teacher assistants, and New York City comes in, and they're not calling them uncertified teachers, they're saying that these classrooms are not, that there's no teacher in the room who's saying it's not a teacher. So they could close that classroom, and then there's no, all the schools are completely full. Like Irene was saying, you can expand, but you can't expand if you don't have teachers, and we have vacancies we can't fill. So this is like a spiraling downward that we have to stop instantly. They don't want to close classrooms because they know there's already kids sitting at home and that the demand of the next wave of kids is coming. So they're saying, okay, don't close the classrooms, we'll figure it out. What we don't want is for them to approve our classes being taught by teachers that are not certified, because then we're getting an inferior education. So it's a big mess right now. We're in the middle of, I think, we're in the middle of figuring it out. But we need to keep the pressure on, and again, we know it's hard for families to participate, but we really need you.
And it's a big effort, and so there are studies being done, and last year we were able to present data. And so if you present data with how many schools in New York are missing certified teachers, or what the turnover rate for all of, and okay, IAC is just giving the numbers for the IAC membership, but it's a large membership.
Right.
So in the city and the whole state. And so if you have numbers in front of you, then it's hard to deny that it's happening, because this is, obviously, what's it called? When you go in front of a lawyer.
Lobby.
No, I'll think of it. Okay. It's evidence. It's evidence of what's happening from like the horse's mouth. So they're bringing evidence in numbers, and people want numbers. And I'm okay with that too, being the behaviorist. You want numbers, like, database decision making, but we're giving numbers that they can't deny. So the last one I think we're going to, and the reason I put it on here, and if we're not talking about it like we used to, it used to be residential development. The only two, and this one's one that I deal with on a daily basis, because I get parents calling saying, I want to be on Eden 2's residential waiting list, and there is no Eden 2's residential waiting list. Agencies can't have official waiting lists because the development of residences is not in our hands anymore. So there are two ways to get into a residence if if there is a need, right? So the first way is if your child has been enrolled in a residential school, like even upstate or out of state, then when they're 21, aging out, it's called aging out residential development, and they come back in. And then the other way is for the Certified Residential Opportunities List, CRO list. And I won't get into all the details. Your care manager, if there's a need, your care manager will help to put together a packet and to send the packet. But an RFP comes out every few years, and we actually only have the first RFP that ever came out for the CRO list just about a year ago.
Right.
And they identify how many places. So New York had like 113. New York City had 113 opportunities, which means that there's not enough people who are on the CRO list. So get your people on the CRO list. Even the first one is like, I need it right now. The second one is where this is not looking good. In a couple of years, I'm going to need it. And the third one is things are okay right now, but I want this, and it's coming down the pike. So getting people on the CRO list helps the state understand the need. When they see the need, then another RFP will come out. But if nobody's on that CRO list communicating, the need's there, right? So I'm not saying make up the need, but when you're on the CRO list, when you have a need, it should be recognized. The only way it can be recognized is if it's communicated. So communicate it to get on the CRO list. It's not in your hands. You put the packet together, and there's a committee that assigns a level on the CRO list. So it's not like you have to present your case. But residential development, across the board, there would be no denying that residential development needs to be stepped up a bit I know there's self-direction, I know there's ISS, I know there's uncertified residences, I know there's a lot of money that is being put towards uncertified, living arrangements, but not everybody can, that doesn't suit everybody's needs. And if we're going to have a choice, and if it's going to be person-centered, then these residential certified opportunities need to be available too. Does that make, like, it needs to be a menu, a variety, so that people have choice. And that's the point.
And the point that you're making about getting on the list can't be stated loudly enough, because when those opportunities were presented, we felt that Western New York did better than we did. And I know I said that at this meeting, not to disparage them. In fact, they are amazing at advocating. So we have to match their level of evidence.
So what can you do? Be as involved, join a committee, and just give as much time as you can. Everybody's busy. Give as much time as you can. We can send this out, but we're going to stop. I think we're going to stop here. Here are the advocacy committee chairs, and it's iacny.org if you want to know what's going on with the other topics. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, so unfortunately, I can't stay. I just have a quick announcement. For anyone that's working with PCCS or has an appointment at PCCS location on 150 Granite Avenue, we are closed. We have a very, very bad leak, flooding going on, so unfortunately, but best way to contact the care manager or any other program manager or myself is email. I'm going back to the building because I have to meet with people. Hopefully I won't yell at them. But just really quick, I have the treasurer's report. There's $10,256.59 in the treasury, and then I'm going to hand everything over to Irene. Do you want my Bible last year?
No, you can take it. It scares me.
Okay. All right. Oh, and there's a meeting Monday night, a recap. So if all the co-chairs could send me your brief report of date, time, the next meeting, anything else brief, couple of sentences is good. Okay? Have a great weekend.
Good luck.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so the last bit of the meeting, as I said before, we flipped it. So we usually start with reports from our officials and stuff, and then we go to committee reports. So now we'll go to the committee report. I'm going to start with health and clinical services, and I'm going to read this for Jade. Are you still here? Yeah. Jade's, she has laryngitis, so I'm going to read the health and clinical services. Met on 11/14/18. There was one final edit that was made to the questionnaire for parents. The questionnaire will first be sent to parent members of the council. Committee will develop a plan for further distribution after initial responses are received. So the next meeting is Wednesday, 12/19, this Wednesday coming up. Oh, 12/19 in a month, sorry. I was thinking Thursday is Thanksgiving, so that doesn't make sense, but I said it anyway. 12/19 at 9:30 at Staten Island Mental Health Society Pouch Center, 657 Castleton Avenue, Building A. Okay, and that's Jane. So, adult services, Iris Goldberg, Jackie Tripodi. Come on, you're A.
So we had our event of postgraduate opportunities, which we've been talking about for quite some time. It was on Tuesday night. And the attendance was, in my estimation, and some people here were there as well, was very good. We had 17 agencies come and speak. We had given them frequently asked questions. We had given them a checklist too for kind of a quick summary of what they have and the programs that they can offer or not offer. Parents were given copies of all of these, including a list of agencies that was there. I estimated we had about 30 families attend. For some of the people who were there, they were telling me it looked like it was more. I didn't really get to do a count. Even Access VR, and thank you to Christine Zia, who's not here. Access VR came and did not present, but they had information, they had a table. We did have families who seemed to network at the end with each other, with agencies network, and really that's, I think, what it's all about, is bringing people, as we were talking about, bringing people together. People seem to feel it was well received. Thanks for the presentation and the opportunity. Our next meeting will be December. Yes, I'm sorry. And Teresa was there. Thank you for your support. And Gail was there. Thank you for your support. And the council was there with Teresa. So thank you. Thank you to the committee members and all who came. Our next meeting will be December 4th. It's 10:30 over at IPR. And we'll recap this. And please come join us, be part of it. Thank you to the agencies as well who were there.
Advocacy, Barbara, do you?
Good morning. We met, first I'd like to thank Irene and Wini for going over everything because advocacy is so important and it affects all of us and it affects every service that your child or someone that you work with receives. We did meet this past Monday. We were discussing the upcoming community breakfast March 1st, where we were really discussing what the topics would be, a lot of which were covered now. To be fair to directly, it's ongoing, and as Irene said before, our direct support professionals are the backbone of our field. Without them, we don't exist. So they should be making like more money than we make. I agree. Residential, and a big thing was education. Last year we had Chris Street was speaking, but we were considering having him come back again.
Yeah, he's the one with all of the info.
I mean, you know, this is really a crisis now at this point, where our children are not being educated.
Are all these borough breakfasts going to be on the same day then?
I don't think so. We're March 1st. We're March 1st. We're usually earlier.
Yeah,
I said they get ahead, and then everybody schedules later, so I'm not
yeah, I
sure.
don't think that it really matters. I mean, it's not the same legislators that go, you know.
No, it's the same like OPWD.
Yeah, but you know what, last year,
No,
to be
it
honest
was
with you, we had people come, they walked out.
I mean, they did it, having them come,
Doesn't
did it.
really.
Well, so the whole point of the community breakfast is to have everybody in one room to hear the topics. All, so,
Parents,
I don't know, I'll check that out for you.
I think it's different. I know Wini tries to, not that she can tell people. But ours is March 1st.
Oh, well, look, right.
And then we got a big topic was, what you mentioned, and what you mentioned was our elected officials and reaching out to them. So Chris reached out to the three of them via Facebook, and then we drafted a letter to which she's going to send out like a formal invitation to request a meeting, to sit down with them, if they don't know our services, to introduce them to our services, to our people, what we do, and how we need their help. Right, and we're going to try to schedule, we used to do a legislative information exchange, but after a while, our elected officials weren't coming, they were sending letters to you know, that was it. No disrespect to the rest, but they weren't bringing back the information. So we're going to try and schedule, do one in January with the new ones. So that's it, we haven't scheduled our next meeting yet, but it'll be probably sometime in December. And I encourage everybody to sign up to some. We did have new members, so I thank them for joining. The more members, the better. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Care management, Janet and Janet. Irene is still on maternity.
Our next meeting will be November 30th at 10 o'clock in this building. We will have representation from the 3 CCOs in New York City, Tri-County, Care Design, and ECA. I encourage everybody to come. Please share it with the care managers that you know or that you work with. If you have any questions, send them to me. We'll trust them there. We're going to have them in there, so I'd really like to make it as meaningful as possible. I know we have a lot of questions in the transition. So again, November 30th, 10 o'clock in this building.
How do we know that is?
I can give you my personal email address, but there also is a community email address. So just like again,
so important to have the questions in advance because it really makes the meeting run smoothly and fast. And when you do even 10 questions, then most of everybody else's questions get answered. And then the questions get more specific. The follow-up questions get more specific. So it just, we did this for the New York City Fair with, BWDD, and it worked really, really, really well. Early Childhood Action Group, Jackie Romolo.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Irene, and Wini too, for that report on the crisis with early childhood. We are in the process of collecting that data that's so important to present to people and to legislators. So we are having a meeting, and the next meeting will be December 11th. It's Tuesday, December 11th at 10 o'clock, and we will be here, hopefully in the conference room. If not, we can definitely have it in our office there in room 2. But I do want to say that this is a major crisis, and we are trying to add our efforts as an action group to what the advocacy committee is doing. And so please, if anyone is interested in when we come up with our, action step, we came up with some action steps, but we do want to go ahead and figure out ways of really putting this, out there. So anyway, I will have a report after December 11th, but if anyone is interested in joining, that's great. Okay.
So this is an action group, it's not a standing committee, and it was put together, it's like an ad hoc committee to deal with a crisis. So if anybody has any concerns, or if anybody knows anybody who has a kid who's sitting home. No. He's how old?
8 years old, he's nonverbal, he has impulse behaviors such as singing, something, visiting, playing, so on, and there's not one program, including this building, that didn't kick them out in one day. There should be more programs that OPWD offers that are for children that have impulse behaviors that are being taught by teachers that are going to put in effort on helping.
So OPWDD is not state education. So
No,
it's a school, it's a state.
Those programs should be more, or less programs should be improved with OPWDD that's not offering them. Or something, something to that effect. These children that have OPWDD, that qualify for OPWDD and are self-direction are home because we already accept them. And it's awful, and I'm tired.
Okay, so why don't you meet with me afterward, and we'll try to steer you in a direction, because we have a mentoring program where we connect parents to, and you can talk about it when you do your little thing, but we have we'll connect parents to someone who's been through it, knows it, and can help either answer a question or help find the answer to a question. Okay? We're not going to let you leave today without.
It's like a sleep desperation, it's not any other.
And that's why we won't let you leave today without all of us, having a little powwow on the side. Okay. Community outreach.
Good morning. We'll be working on a lot of exciting projects this year to increase membership. Currently, we just completed a vendor membership drive, so the committee split up 165 contacts, so we're going to actually be discussing those results today at our meeting. Our website currently has 2,625 views in 1 month, so a lot of people are getting to our website, so that's excellent. We're building that website. We will be developing a new outreach video that's going to be shared in the community as well as on our website. Currently, there are 140 members. We want to continue to grow that number. So we're going to be getting out into the community, doing more presentations, just finding out ways to get, like you all heard earlier, it's so important to get younger families, younger parents involved. And all of you, your homework is to the next council meeting, bring somebody with you, or at least share the information. So, we have a lot of empty seats in here. We don't want empty seats. So if all of us, if we work together, we can bring more people here, and then we're going to get the word out, and we're going to be able to empower more families, which that's our purpose. And we meet currently after our morning meetings in the conference room up front. All are welcome, so please join us. We want to hear all of your ideas, and like I said, we want everyone in our community needs to know all the information about SIDDC and all the services that are out there. So let's work together and get the message out. Thank you.
Thanks. Education, Laura, I don't see Laura Kennedy, Mary Ellis. Mary, I didn't see Mary Ellis. Okay, well, Skip, and Family Resource and Transition Fair happened. It was good. If you have any suggestions about next time, please, give us, me or Jeannie. Is Jeannie here? So I might recap, and so if you have any, even Pam and Melissa, if you have any topics or changes that you'd like to see for the next year's fair, just communicate them to us. Even Angela, anybody, it'll get to us. We aim to please. Family Support Services Advocacy Council.
Hi, good morning. We had a meeting scheduled last night and we canceled it because of the storm. Our next meeting is going to be a morning meeting on December 12th. It'll be in this building in the conference room. We serve breakfast. And then in January, we'll do an evening meeting where we serve wine and cheese. The topics that we'll discuss at the meeting will be the highlighted points of your presentation on advocacy. And we'll also talk about the transition to the CCOs. That's always an important topic for families right now. And we also have information from John about family members. Thank you. And we do have a mentor program. We'll be happy to help you. Because our committee works with the state to identify programs and supports that are needed. So we'll talk about it.
Residential quality of life. Jason, Linda, I didn't see them. Okay. Self-directed services, Jason.
Hi, good morning, everyone. We will be having, first I want to introduce my new co-chair, Melissa Palermo. Our next meeting will be Thursday, November 29th, here at 9:30. We're going to have a vendor information session. We're going to have JCC, Because We Can, Rainbows Reach, Calicarati, AIM-U, and RB2 are all different vendors that families can use through self-direction. So if you want, I don't have any physical flyers in the back, but if you want to put your name on the list, go in the back and I'll email you a flyer. Or just come on Thursday. That's it.
Willowbrook, Eric?
Good morning, everyone. We've been doing the plan for the Willowbrook information dedicated, and that will be on December 14th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Basically, what we've been doing is we've been laying out the groundwork, reviewing all the stations, trying to get electronic kiosks. So if a person can't maneuver or can't walk there, they can just see a kiosk and go up to it. We've also been trying to get kiosks in a central location as well, whether it be the library at CSI or 1C, which is the campus center. So then again, if people who can't make the trip around can actually see, can see it on the kiosk itself. So again, the next meeting is December 14th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that is the Willowbrook Environmental Information Meeting, and that is at the Lifestyle Cafe. Thank you.
Lifestyle Cafe. Okay. Membership and guidelines, Scott? Cavanagh, I don't see Linda.
Good morning. Linda and I, we meet every couple of weeks, and right now we're really trying to support the membership component where we're trying to help the outreach committee just getting more membership to the council. So we're coming up with some strategies on how to introduce some of the concepts, and hopefully we see those numbers grow. I think the website is working out very well. It's great to hear those numbers. The vendor campaign, I think, is going great. I know I spoke to some vendors myself this week, they want on board. So they're excited about the council, they're learning about the history of the council, which has been great to have those conversations with people in the community. And so I think there's a lot of good things happening. It's just trying to get them on board here officially, and hopefully we can reach those goals of hundreds of members in the near future. I think it's very possible. But so I'll be interested to see at the outreach meeting today what we've all come up with on the vendor side. But I know a lot of our families, one of the things we're trying to introduce is go direct to the agencies, the not-for-profit agencies, to talk to their individuals that they're serving. I'm proposing lifestyles to be the guinea pig here, where we go to the families that we're serving to sign them up as members to the council if they're not already part of the council. We had an event, Lifestyle hosted an event last Friday night, and we started rolling out that concept with our family base, and it was very successful. Members signed up on the spot. We had an iPad. The website is very user-friendly now, so it really takes 30 seconds to a minute to become a member of the council. Before, there's a lot of paperwork and faxing and mailing checks and things like that. So I think it's an effective way with the technology, and I think we'll see membership rise and people start to come in person, check it out on the video that we're shooting, if they can't make it. But also, I think we'll try to get, really reach the membership base that we're looking for in a different way. So we're coming up with strategies and ideas that, hopefully, we'll bring us all together and put the word out. Thank you.
Thanks. I think that's important, that one of the important components is to get bodies in the seats. I think that signing up is good, but any ideas that you have to get people to come to the meetings to hear and be part of the dialogue is really important. So thank you all who came and filled the seats today. So the next is old business and new business. Does anybody have any old business? Any burning question? Or any? No. New business? Yeah.
Good morning. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm with Parents Parent New York Inc. It's also the Staten Special Education Parent Center. We have our November, December calendar on the back table and a standalone flyer. Our December workshop is going to be on December 5th from 12 to 2 at IBR. And we're having Staten Island University Hospital, North Willingham, pediatric rehab providers. There's been some changes in management. Come and talk to us about what they do, what they don't do, availability, etc. So please join us.
Okay.
So
I have an announcement. For those of you who participated in the Arnold Rivera public conversations last year, Part 3 is going to be held on December 6th at 2:30 to 4:30 at IBR. From the last one, and when you go, you'll understand what the common themes were, but one of the biggest themes was funding, as we all know. And Irene Hopkins, or any of my other friends who are here, they're always saying the same thing. I'm not sure that this is going to work, but it works. Through public conversations, through storytelling, through the World Cafe, all the different things that we did in the past. But we're going to have at least 6 to 8 stories, people who had successes in life. And there'll be 3 people talking about the story. The individual who, may have had obstacles along the way, but eventually there was some success. It could be this much success or this much success. The parent will be there, or someone close to the individual, as well as a provider or somebody who's working with the person. And from that, we will, harvest and gather and come up with a common theme, and hopefully, eventually, lead to this funding problem that we all seem to have. And what I keep hearing when you talk about advocacy is that, and even when you talk to legislators, they all say you need to get your story out. And we tend to always put that awful, horrible story out and not the good stories. And again, even though I've been doing this for a year, and I say Irene because Irene Hopkins, who works with Eden, the two of us look at each other, really, it's gonna work like that? But it does, it's the coolest way how to, I don't know, just
Make your case.
but it's just like, it's very collaborative, and it's, I can't even, still can't touch it and explain it, but I hope anyone who's available, please come. Again, it's December 6th, 2:30 at like,
Okay.
oh, and you know what, if anyone does have a story, talk to me. Because we're even toying, like, maybe we'll plan 6 to 8 stories, we may end up with 5, and we may ask people that are sitting there if you want to tell a story. So if anybody here has a story that they want to share and participate, come
December 6th or 5th?
6th, the Thursday the 6th.
Will you continue getting president?
Well, you know what, that's a good question, I haven't seen the email yet. The person that's running it right now is going to look into it. We'll let you know. I see no reason why not, because they did in the past.
Yes.
And where was it? And actually, I think Michael Weinberg just put it on Facebook, so I'm sure we'll put it on our council website as well.
Two other things. Our next meeting is December 14th. It's at IBR, and it's celebrating achievements, which is a really great meeting. It's fun, it's, festive. And Angela sent out to all of the agencies the packet to nominate somebody to perform or to show their artwork or to perform. Perform in any way. So please check back, if you work for an agency, please check back with your agency to see if they received the packet and fill it out and get it into us, because planning for this is intricate, because there are all different forms of, artistic expression, and that has to be planned for. And there'll be a little kind of holiday fair too, so bring people along with you, because it's just a nice community morning of celebrating the achievements of our peeps. That's December 14th, it's at 9:30, our regular time at IBR though, right? Angela, any other information? So get those applications back. The last topic, and I'm just going to throw it out there, we have next month is Celebrate Achievements. We'll reschedule guardianship. But we have January, February, March, April, and May. So guardianship we have 4 more opportunities for topics. So I'm just putting it out there to the people in the room, because those of you who showed up get the first choice of topics. Is there anything that you would like to have a presentation on, that a topic, a burning topic? Yeah. You were waiting out?
No, I have been trying to introduce myself. And that's what it is, focusing on this topic. So I wanted to give the opportunity to speak maybe 2 minutes or 1 minute.
Who are you? I'm sorry, on what?
Chrissy, right?
I'm not Chrissy, I'm Irene.
Yes.
Irene, Chrissy's blonde.
SIDDC meeting last time, and we did the membership. So we want to remember to SI supplement people into the city council. We did this year, I think it was in October, September, October. And I was invited.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Anchor Health.
Oh, Anchor Health.
Yes. Money is to get. So I was here representing Anchor Health Home Care Services. I was invited to the meeting today, general council meeting, by Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. So I said thank you to Melissa, and thank you to Irene for actually getting us to the process of, how this to the committee, to become a member of the committee. So our agency, we provide special services to individuals. And we also provide direct care services. So our agency is licensed by the state of New York to provide home care services. So I was listening to presentation like all that have been focusing this morning. Sometimes, the individuals they may have, although they may be trying to get the independence, getting employment services, advocating, advocating for them, trying to get it normalized as also individuals. Some of them may have need of respite care. So we provide respite care and we accept Medicaid, insurance. And we coordinate, secure the home care services for them without them having to pay for the services. And our home health aid are fully trained, they certified home health aid. And I don't want to talk too much.
Okay, well, thank you. So you're a new member, and you're
a meeting. One of these meetings, our friend right here was speaking and we were doing. Yes. Okay. So if I have the opportunity to present one of these, one of the meetings, I really appreciate it because we have to offer to the
Well, we have opportunities for tables at events and stuff, so our annual fair, that was October 5th, so certainly a table there. But thank you for introducing yourself, and feel free to bring any flyers or handouts that you have, because that's our kind of advertisement table for all our members. Thanks. Which, thank you for reminding me, are there any new members here? Anybody, is this your first meeting? I feel like it's welcome. So, new member. I will say that if we have one new person at every meeting, we're a success. Just one new person is so I think that this was the perfect first meeting, actually, for you to attend. So everybody go home and bring one more person next time. Go ahead. Okay, one more thing, and then we'll adjourn. Go ahead. Okay.
CP of New York State is having a dine to donate. Families had approached the agency about starting a new program called the MOVE program. It's mobility opportunities via education experience, and it's to help individuals in wheelchairs to get up and be in an upright position. So it will require purchasing new equipment. It's gait trainers, activity stations. So the Dine to Donate is going to be at Jimmy Max on Wednesday, December 5th, and it'll be open for lunch and dinner. So come and join us. Thank you. Flyers are in the back.
So Wini said something during her speech to the Joint Talk this morning about educating new legislators.
Yes, educating new
Do we have a plan to educate Maxlers about us before our breakfast?
Wait,
did it?
We reached out, Chris reached out via Facebook and we traced the letter, the letter. Yes, we intend to meet with
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to Chris about it. And then, I guess the goal is to try to make our legislative breakfast very welcoming and that could possibly be, a really good introduction to the whole thing. All right, if we're all done, if nobody has anything else, I'm going to